Hey, so today the presentation is Healthy Air is Smoke-Free. We're going to be talking about having smoke-free homes and vehicles and the problems that can result from secondhand and third-hand smoke. What is secondhand smoke? Well, it is a smoke that is given off by cigarettes, cigars, or pipes, or what is exhaled by people who are smoking. Important to remember that there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Any exposure can be harmful. This slide presentation will include a number of graphics that are from Tobacco Free California. They make some really nice materials, so I've used some of those, and smoke harms everyone. But it is especially harmful to children, elderly people, and anyone with a breathing problem. It affects ears, eyes, nose, and throat. It causes eye irritation, nasal congestion, coughs, and wheezing. And it causes ear infections in children. A lot of children are prone to ear infection anyway, and so secondhand smoke is something we don't want them around for sure. Respiratory infections can be increased by secondhand smoke. It increases the risks of colds, bronchitis, which is infection of the bronchial tubes leading down into your lungs. It increases the risk of pneumonia as well. Secondhand smoke can cause asthma in children and can make asthma attacks more frequent and more severe. One fact to remember is that secondhand smoke is responsible for a third of all the missed school days for children who have parents who smoke. So you smoke in your home, the risk of having your children become sick and having to stay home from school is increased substantially. Secondhand smoke affects babies. More children die because of exposure to their parents' smoke than from accidents. A baby has double the risk of dying from sudden infant death syndrome when a parent or caregiver smokes around the baby. Smoking or being exposed to secondhand smoke while pregnant increases the risk of miscarriage, stillbirth, and underweight babies. Secondhand smoke increases risk of heart disease as well. It makes the heart beat more rapidly and work harder. Daily exposure to secondhand smoke doubles the risk of heart attack compared with someone who is not a smoker or exposed to secondhand smoke. Every year, 37,000 people approximately in the United States die from heart disease caused by secondhand smoke. And these are people who do not smoke themselves. They're just exposed to secondhand smoke at work or in other places on a regular basis. Secondhand smoke is a risk for cancer. Tobacco smoke contains more than 40 chemicals that are known to cause cancer. Secondhand smoke causes about 3,000 cases of lung cancer each year in people who do not smoke. Secondhand smoke increases the risk of contracting cancer of the pancreas, kidneys, bladder, cervix, breasts, and brain. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the chemicals can affect actually every part of the body. People automatically think of lung cancer as a risk from smoking, but the smoke actually can increase risks of cancers in other places in the body and cause a number of problems throughout the body. And this includes secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke harms pets also. It can cause skin, eye, and breathing problems in our companion animals. It can cause cancer and heart disease in animals too. Dogs with long snouts are especially affected by secondhand smoke. Cats ingest the smoke particles when they lick their fur and then swallow the particles from the smoke. Birds themselves are very sensitive to air pollution, including to secondhand smoke. We love our furry animals, and so we want to show that love, and one way to do that is to have homes so that they're not exposed to secondhand smoke. A smoke-free home then will help to protect your family, your guests, and your pets, and of course yourself. But what about third-hand smoke? Smoke that settles into furniture, into hair, clothing, car interiors, etc., can be inhaled for a long time afterwards. This is called third-hand smoke. The particles from third-hand smoke are harmful, just like the particles from second-hand smoke. If these walls could cough, you've heard the expression, if these walls could talk. Well, walls can also tell a story when it comes to smoke. If you look on the walls, you'll see where pictures used to be hanging on those walls. And that's a dramatic illustration of how secondhand smoke then settles on the walls and then becomes third-hand smoke. And you can imagine as it stains the walls and affects them, what it can do to your body. Smoke residue can stick also to furniture, carpeting, clothing, hair, and even to presents, to everything where it settles. Well, a question that people ask recently, especially, is what about secondhand aerosol from electronic cigarettes? We don't know necessarily everything about the effects of breathing the secondhand aerosol, but we do know it's not the same as clean air. So it would be better not to be exposed to that also. So remember, it is an aerosol. It's not water vapor. So when people talk about electronic cigarettes giving off vapor or talk about vaping, it gives a false impression that it's a harmful vapor, but it is not. It's an aerosol that contains chemicals that can harm not only the user, but may harm people around as well. Those can include the aerosols or the particles from the solvents that are used in the electronic cigarettes, as well as even some heavy metals and other chemicals that are involved. Now I will mention that we do have window clings that are available from Community Connections that say this is a smoke-free home or this is a smoke-free vehicle. And they are available in English and Spanish. They're very easy to affix to a window glass and also to reposition if necessary. So we should make sure that our vehicles are smoke-free also to protect everyone who rides in them. Don't let your vehicle become a smoke trap. And remember what I mentioned earlier, that no amount of secondhand smoke is safe. What seems a bit ironic is that many people have determined that they will have a smoke-free home, but many of those same people when they get into the vehicle, they'll go ahead and light up. And if you think about the fact that a vehicle is such a small, tight surface or a small, tight interior, then it's easy to realize that that can even be worse than having secondhand smoke exposure inside the home. So don't overlook your vehicles. When the smoke is concentrated inside a vehicle, it can make the air 10 times more toxic than the minimum hazardous air standards that are established that we use to measure the pollution in a city. So we think about the air pollution in a city and how they can have notifications on particularly dangerous days, be careful going outside and so forth. The smoke inside of a car can become even much more toxic than that polluted city air. Smoke moves to the back seat of a vehicle, so people can be smoking in the front seat, but then it will accumulate in the back, and that's usually where children ride, which makes the concern even greater. There are other reasons not to smoke while you drive. One good reason is so that you can concentrate on your driving, not on smoking, just like other things such as using a phone, texting, and doing other things while driving can be distractions that accidents. Even smoking can cause a distraction. So that's a good reason, in addition to the secondhand smoke exposure, not to smoke while you drive. Another good reason is to avoid burns or fires that could be caused by ashes that fall from the cigarette. And then a third really good reason is to be a good example for your children. Here are some practical suggestions to help you to have a smoke-free vehicle. One would be just don't keep cigarettes in your vehicle. Heard of situations where people get all concerned if they don't have a pack of cigarettes somewhere in their vehicle. But a good way to avoid having a smoke-free filled vehicle and to commit to a smoke-free vehicle is just not to keep cigarettes in the vehicle. Another idea is to take the lighter out of the vehicle, to just use it for things like cell phone chargers instead, but just completely take the lighter out. Another is to clean up the ashtrays that are in a vehicle and then put coins in them, or even other things. So that's what they become, is a coin holder and not an ashtray. Another idea is to keep gum or mints in your vehicle. Take the cigarettes out, put gum or mints in. Another idea is to remember, or good reason to have a smoke-free vehicle is it frees up your hands, so you become a better driver just because of your concentrating more on the driving and keeping your hands on the steering wheel. Another suggestion is if you are going to determine not to smoke in your vehicle, don't allow anybody else to smoke while they are riding in your vehicle, even with the windows open. Just make that a rule. Nobody smokes in my vehicle without pointing out any particular person. Just when somebody gets in, I've just determined that I want to have a smoke-free vehicle for the safety and health of everyone. So thank you very much for helping me with that. Remember that an open vehicle in your house or your vehicle does not make the air clean. You can still get a lot of air that accumulates within the interior. Remember also, when we go back to talking about our homes, if you smoke in one room, then smoke can move throughout the house. Which brings up another thought. When someone smokes in one apartment, in an apartment building, it can move throughout the building. So some things you can do, in addition to just determining that you will not smoke inside your home or vehicle, is to ask your friends and family members for their support. Please help us have a smoke-free vehicle, a home and vehicles. That way you're not in any way targeting them, but rather come across as a very positive idea that we want your help, and you can really help us out to have a smoke-free home and vehicle. Remember, if you're in an apartment building, if your neighbors smoke, then likely you're going to get some smoke in your own apartment. And so if you live in a building where smoking is allowed, you can ask your landlord to consider establishing a smoke-free policy for your building. And then if you're in a position where you need to find a new place to live and you're looking at apartments, one of the first things you can ask is, do you have smoke-free policies for your building? And a lot of apartment buildings in North Platte and the surrounding area do have smoke-free policies, but there are a lot of others that do not. In fact, there are some apartment owners and managers who do not have a real positive opinion of establishing smoke-free policies and don't want to go to the trouble of converting their buildings to smoke-free interiors. And so the more they hear from people, the more they will realize that is what people want. And it can actually attract people to want to rent from them. You may have seen this billboard. Currently, it's being displayed on Jeffers, just north of Dollar General on the north side of the viaduct. So you go over the Jeffers Viaduct to the north side of town, and right away you can see this billboard on the east side of the street between Dollar General and City Discount Liquor just south of 9th Street. Is your apartment building smoke-free? It should be. If not, talk to your landlord. If it is smoke-free, thank your landlord. And one of the closing thoughts is that we can surround our children with love. Let's not surround them with smoke. Make a firm decision now. Our home and vehicles are. Because healthy air is smoke-free.